On today's episode, I'm going to be sitting down with Ellen Faye, who is a productivity coach and an author and a speaker, and someone I've known for many years, and someone who I think brings out the uniqueness between productivity and how people are uniquely wired, have unique goals, have unique capabilities and strengths, and somehow creates a platform and approach that would work for everyone as they get to know themselves. I'm going to be talking with Ellen about her history as a productivity coach, how she's come about creating her book that's been out for a few years now and I love, and that really dives into some of these topics I've just mentioned. It's called Productivity for How You're Wired. I think the work around understanding yourself and understanding that not everything fits for everyone else is going to fit for you. It's so important to helping people feel more productive and aligned with their own goals. I think you're going to really like hearing what Ellen has to say about it, whether it's about feeling like you can get more done and the right things done at work, at home, or throughout your life as you take care of yourself and your goals and needs and priorities in a way that you feel good about. Welcome to Surfing the Quicksand. Have you been hearing me talk about the Clever Girl Organizing Challenge and wondering if 2026 is your year to join? Well, now's your chance to find out. Registration is now open through January 4th, 2026. We spend 11 weeks together, and I give you an assignment every week. We're going to work on all the spaces and categories in your home that are kind of causing some chaos. Your kitchen, paperwork, clothes, kids' toys, all the different spaces that really can get out of control, whether it's around clutter or your systems, and you just feel overwhelmed and don't know where to start. You're going to start with me. You'll be part of an 11-week program with weekly assignments and exclusive supportive Facebook group community where I give you much more content on helping us understand and getting to the bottom of what you own, why you own it, and where you keep the keepers. I'm all about helping you understand the psychological and emotional barriers that have been getting in your way and helping you figure out ways to tackle that. Head over to clevergirlorganizing.com for you to find out more about the 2026 Clever Girl Organizing Challenge and sign up by January 4th. See you there. Today, I get to dive into one of my favorite topics, which is productivity. And I'm one of those people who didn't know how much I loved productivity before I knew that productivity was a thing. But it was one of those things is when I became a member of the National Association for Productivity and Organizing Professionals and found so many of my people, and we all kind of shared our lifelong passion for this sort of thing. It's when I got to meet people like my guest today. And you've heard me use this term before, FROLEAGUE, friend plus colleague. And this is where I consider all of my NAPO guests who are so generous with their time to come on the show. So today I am speaking with Ellen Faye, and she is an ICF professional certified coach. She's a certified professional organizer. She's a certified organizer coach, and she's the author of Productivity for How You're Wired. We're going to talk about this book quite a bit today. Ellen started out her business back in 2001, originally as a professional organizer in residential settings, but she quickly became more attached to working with entrepreneurs with their home office and their home businesses and helping them with productivity and leadership and business success. And that transformed quickly into pretty much just working with business leaders and going across a variety of different industries and spaces and profit and for profit and helping leaders find their way through productivity and success. In addition to all of that in her book and her work as a coach, she's also an instructor at the Coach Approach Training Institute. She has been on boards and serving in nonprofits, including as president of NAPO for a term. And she generously lends her strategic planning gifts to those organizations she really believes in. And I'm thrilled that part of who she's giving her gifts to is me and our podcast today. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Kathy. And this is a great topic and so very important.
It is, and I think, as you and I have talked many times, it kind of ebbs and flows a bit in terms of how much of the space and what I'm hearing in the world around the importance of productivity comes and goes. Certainly through the pandemic, we've seen a lot of different shifts in how people think of it and dialing it up, dialing it down, taking a step back, all of it. It's this amazing kind of roller coaster to think about studying productivity. So I want to start there and talk a bit about you and your study of productivity. How did you get into this space, starting from organizing and really honing in on this being your passion?
It came exactly from sitting next to people at their desks, helping them try to dig out. And as professional organizers, we were looking at paper and we were looking at calendars and we were looking at technology. And this goes back, I think I was like doing my first offices in 2003. I could tell you it was 2002. So it's been an issue, even though our technology has changed. People don't use paper like they used to. They're much more comfortable with their technology. What they don't have is that good, solid foundation. I mean, everyone goes for all the bells and whistles, but they don't have that solid foundation. And as time went on, I kept seeing the same patterns. Everyone's unique, everyone's different, but the needs are the same. And that was they just needed good, solid, simple, basic, easy systems. And then the more I created them, the more I started to see what systems were needed person by person. And then that's how that evolved. And then I became a certified coach in 2011, and we'll add that a certified productivity leadership coach in 20, I think 19. So there's, many levels, but it was just by talking to people and listening to people and hearing what they needed.
And like me, you are someone who has a lot of certifications, and I'm somebody who believes in that. And I kind of believe that when you're in your space, you do the best that you can to be the most studied, the most researched, the most credentialed, right? That's not everybody's like that, but I know that you and I share that in common. As you kept adding these, sh- uh, how did this shift the way in which you worked with people? I want to understand
Sure,
your
sure.
client, how you work with clients, the kinds of clients you work with now.
Okay, so real quick, 2001, residential organizing. 2003, 4, 5, can you help me in my home office? Can you come to work with me? Can you go to work and help my partner do for him what we just did at home? And then, so I was doing that hybrid business residential. In 2012, I joined the NAPO National Board of Directors, and I was there till 2018. And that was a very gratifying and meaningful part of my life, but it also really reinforced my leadership skills and taught me like what's like to work in this era virtually because our board was virtual. We're all over the country. So I was getting all these great skills. So after I stepped off the NAPA board, it was time to recreate who I was. And that's when I really pushed the push to launch a coaching practice. And until the pandemic, I was coaching a few weeks a month and then seeing hands-on clients a week a month and kind of compartmentalize that. But once the pandemic hit, I went full Zoom. And so for the last 5 years, over 5 years, I've been on Zoom, clients all over the world, CEOs, CFOs, vice human resource people, entrepreneurs, architects, artists, teachers, startups. I'm just looking at my client list, executive directors, vice president, CPAs, right?
Yeah.
So to me, working with a wide variety of people keeps it really fascinating and interesting. And it also makes me better at what I do because I'm exposed to so many things.
Yeah. How typically, how are people finding you? And what are they asking you about when they first contact you? Because we speak fluently in our language around productivity and time management and prioritization and perfection, but our clients don't always when they come to us.
So I have been blessed with being on the first page of Google for productivity coach for many, many years. So I get my new clients that way. I'm trying to teach ChatGPT about me, and so I'm working hard at that. We keep talking about that because I mean, it's like what happens. That's where people are going for their, how do I find a coach? Um, but I also now have a really good stream of referral business and repeat business clients who I finished with 3, 4, 5 years ago who are coming back with new jobs or new situations. So they're looking for support. And I speak, so a client might say, "Can you come teach my team what you taught me?" And that kind of thing. What they want to know, they don't even know what they want to know, right? So my job is to meet them where they're at and tell them how I can help them. So anybody can say, "Oh, I'm going to give you more time in your day." But really, my approach to productivity, and it's based actually on this concept I wrote about in the book, which the book was a reflection of what I was doing. It just really helped me solidify my vision and my words, right? But that everyone is different. And I am not going to put, if you're a round peg, I'm not going to put you in a square hole. And if you're a square hole, I'm not going to shove a round peg into you. I want to, I strength-based coaching. I'm going to help you maximize your strengths, make it easier for however you're wired. How much structure do you need to do your best work? What are your winning conditions you need to win the game of life? And how do we create those systems that fit you? So I explain that to them. I want them to know that when they come and coach with me, I am there to help them, not any agenda of my own. And I'm whatever they bring to the table, we can make work and we can help them achieve their goals.
I love, and maybe the most important part of what you said at the very end was, help them achieve their goals and like in line with you don't have an agenda, right? As a coach, I'm always explaining that to people, and sometimes I'll talk to somebody like, oh, do you have a program that you're going to run me through? Do you have a process that I listen? If I talk to 100 people, I've got 100 different plans, and they're not my plans. They're your plans. I'm the process of trying to facilitate awareness, understanding, education, reflection, all of those things to help build some systems and tools that work with your strengths and but most importantly, support your goals. I don't have goals for you. You need to have goals for you, and that will guide our work together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, when you think about, because obviously you've worked with so many and such a broad diversity of people, and I hear you kind of talk about the book itself kind of came out of that work, right? And solidified some of that. As somebody who wrote a book very similarly, right? My book is, of course, more on organizing and the barriers of letting things go. It came from my constant thematic observations of working with people,
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
conversations I'm having over and over again. I'm like, oh, it's everyone. Everybody's different, but everyone has some aspect of this. So, how did you decide? All right, I'm going to write a book. And your book is extremely thorough, well researched, well defended. It's such a broad guide for people from the conceptual to the practical. It's a ton of work. How did you decide I'm up for this?
That's such an interesting question. Um, Kind of, it was inside of me, and I always knew I would. It wasn't a decision that I made, it was something that just happened to me. The decision was external, And I just said, okay, so now's the time to write the book. And I originally I had a whole different working title, Productivity for Leaders, which is if I do it, the next book. But it's really, I'm passionate about bringing humanity to the workplace and helping leaders know how to make their teams most productive. They have to lead well and manage well and treat people as humans and make the workplace more human and know how to motivate them and know how to create the environment for people to step up and do their best work and be their best selves. So that is actually at the end of the book as a launch to the book I will be hopefully writing soon. Um, but
Excellent.
in terms of, so I wrote that, and then my book coach said, "That's not the book you just delivered to me." And I had to back it out and change everything around because really what I did was I wanted to create a resource. So here's the truth. In 2001, when started my business, I read Julie Morgenstern's book, Organizing from the Inside Out, and I felt like it was the premier optimal organizing book. And I like with that book, I was equipped to be a professional organizer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we have certain other books in the productivity world. I'm not a fan of any of them. I mean, I think there's great, brilliant things in all of them, but it wasn't my way and it wasn't what I believed in. So I wanted not only to provide a resource to my readers that would answer what they needed, I really wanted to create that book that when somebody wanted to become a productivity coach or a productivity consultant or even a professional organizer who gets put in those situations, they had all the answers they needed to really do right by their clients.
I love that. And I think I'm so kind of inside baseball on this that as I read it,
Right.
it's hard for me to read it as someone who has never had exposure to productivity principles, other productivity books, right? And so I really can appreciate and also being having a fan of Julie Morgenstern's book, and I took her time management coaching program. Um, no, that feeling of being just somebody who's interested in this concept, but now I have a guide and now I have a manual of if I not only to do it for myself but how I might approach it with others. I really do see that with yours, and I hadn't thought about that. I really appreciate that you had that insight around what do I want this book to do. When I people ask me all the time, like, oh, hey, I'm thinking about writing a book. You wrote a book. And I ask them two questions, right? What is it that, who is it that you're writing for?
Mhm.
And how do you want to change their life with this book? Right. And those really sound really profound. You're like, oh, that's not what I want to do. Like, even if it's a small way that you're changing their life, how is it that you want to impact them? And so for you, you really had a handle on both of those. And that
Yeah,
was kind of
absolutely.
guiding force. And it also sounds like I can appreciate how your book coach said it's you didn't write the book for leaders. You
Right.
wrote this book for other people.
Right, right. For people
Yeah.
who wanted to work better. I
Yeah.
mean, the
Yeah.
subtitle is Better Work, Better Life.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
want you to work better so you live better. We're
Yes.
not working better so you can work 24/7. You and I've talked about this.
Yeah.
Don't want you to work better so you are a robot. I want you to work better so when you leave the office, you can relax and you could feel under control and you don't have to stress about the scary monsters in your inbox that you don't know what's there or what is on your to-do list that you forgot about or am I doing my unimportant work and not my important work? That it is all clearly outlined for you. And when you go to work the next day, you know what you're doing, you know, and you know how to figure out what you're doing, and that you have realistic expectations for yourself.
I love this, and it's another thing that I talk about with people around, oh, I want work-life balance. I'm like, it's not balance. It's going to be integration, but integration only happens with intention. And part of what I'm hearing in that is so much around getting a handle on the work part, so that that intentional integration with home or outside work lives up to what you hope for. Let's talk about the book. So, as I kind of have already gone on a bit on how great I think the structures are,
Yeah.
some of the things where it starts is talking about your five pillars of productivity. So, can
Sure.
you talk a little bit about that since that's the whole foundation of the work?
Sure. So, these are, I mean, I could talk about this for hours. Five pillars, and this is chapter one. Productivity is a quality of life issue. We just talked about that. It's not what you do to work 24/7. It's what you do so when you're done working, you could enjoy your life. Pillar two, one size does not fit all. What works for your boss or your partner or your kid or your parent or your colleague, when somebody says, "Oh, what did you do?" "Oh, I used this planner or I used this app or I'm using this." We have to make that fit you because we're all wired differently. We all have different temperaments. We all have different ways of processing information. We have all have different ways of working effectively and when you work and how you work and with music or without, or I mean, there's a billion variables. So we have to find out for the person, how do you work best? And then create the system to fit that. My third pillar is if it's not easy, it's too hard. So I have read so many books with these extremely complex systems and all these apps that have so many layers. So you are spending hours and hours and hours learning somebody else's system that's probably not going to work for you anyway, or spending hundreds of dollars on tools that are so complex that they're not going to work for you anyway. So my system is so simple, and somebody says, how can a system that simple work? And my answer is, it's so simple it has to work. It's the structure that I call it the productivity flow framework. It's a very basic, it's like an operating system that hums in the background so you can do your important work. And the concepts of it are very basic. When you buy the book, you get a link to a Google Sheet that you can do it yourself. I mean, it's all there, and the book tells you how. So for less than $20, you can get exposed to that and have a tool that you don't have to buy any planner or any app, a Google Sheet based tool if you like that. And there are also printables, and I mean I did everything for everybody because everyone's different. So, but they're very, very simple. Um, the email chapter is not so simple, but if you get it, it'll change your life if you use Outlook. But most of the time, these tools are so easy conceptually. The hard work is you learning to use them, using them, building your habit, and integrating the process so it becomes on autopilot. So it's humming in the background and you don't have to think about it. The fourth one of my pillars is not all work is equally important. And this, oh my God, this is goes to perfectionism, procrastination. So we have I think, an epidemic of perfectionism, especially for women in our age range. There's something that happened to us when we were little girls. I mean, I have it for men and I have it for younger people, but especially for us. That, you got that smiley face on your paper for 100%. We totally set people up for failure because as fast as our work world and our lives move, not everything is 100% worthy. And if we say we fail if we don't get 100% perfect, then we're failing all the time because it just isn't feasible. So, what I talk to my clients about is the 80/20 rule, which is the concept that you get 80% of your work done in 20% of the time, or you can get to 80%, which is above average, in 20% of the time. It
Yeah.
takes you another 80% of the time to get that last 20%. So I want all of you listeners out there to write this on a piece of paper. Is this 100% worthy or is 80% good enough? And if you say, oh, for this, it's an email, it's cleaning the dishes, it's folding the laundry, it's a draft, a billion things we do. Um, if you can say 80%, I'm not talking mediocre, I'm talking above average is good enough, you are going to get like 80 minutes of every 100 minutes back.
It
So
really,
not all work is equally important.
right, it really is. And 80%, right? If we just think about grading, right? 80% is a B. And it's crazy. And you're right, we get trained at a young age of what good, better, best looks like in terms of a numerical score. But it's crazy that a B can leave you feeling like a failure. And I know we're going to talk more about some of that negative self-talk a little. We're going to get to that because I do think that's another part that goes along with this because I want to go back and talk about you mentioned perfection as being maybe worse than you've ever seen it. And I feel that way as well. And I got exposed to perfection really as I started working with people with ADHD and found how often, like a
Mhm.
crippling sense of perfection
Right.
combined with ADHD. I see it in many other people, but it was just that was where I got my hyper attention focus myself to like, oh, this is what's happening with folks. So it's really become this part has become a pillar for you in this is your fourth
Oh,
pillar? Yeah.
yeah. And it's so integral to everything. It
Yeah.
usually comes up in our very, very first coaching call is let's assess, is this task 100% worthy?
Yeah.
And there are tasks that are 100% worthy. And you really need to put the time in.
Yeah.
And then there's things that are like, I always kid that like I did the cover of my book 120%. If I told you how much time I put into that cover, you would die. You would say, oh my gosh. But I knew that if the cover wasn't attractive and exactly right, no one would open up and see and get the goodness inside, right?
Yeah.
So I really invested. I made the intentional, deliberate decision. This is 120%. And I really do. I've had to teach myself when I write an email, read it once and hit send. And if it's not perfect, let them judge me. That goes to Mel
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Robbins, the
Yeah.
let them theory.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, it's such a good reminder of everything we should know.
Yeah.
Um, but let them say, oh, maybe, like, I can't waste my life. If I die and they say Ellen wrote great emails, that's not what I'm going for. I mean, really seriously.
Yeah.
So I have had to teach myself to let go. Brene Brown talks about perfectionism and shame, and that is like the gifts of imperfection. I mean, read that book because that is the root of we are worried that people are going to judge us for not being enough.
Yeah.
Those Brene Brown's words, they're not mine. But that's the root of all of us spending 5 times more time on a task that is not equally important.
Yeah. One of the phrases I always use, so I use it when I'm doing hands-on organizing or residential home organizing, is are good enough and say, oh, well, is this good enough? And I said, you know what? When Architectural Digest comes back for the photo shoot, we'll touch that corner up, right? Like
Love that.
it's this
Exactly.
is that's not how you live. That what you're trying to achieve is not how you live. And if we got to the point where there's a photo shoot coming in, I'll come back and I'll help you get a photo shoot ready.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, that's really funny. I love
So
that.
what's the fifth pillar?
Fifth one, plan your work and work your plan.
Mm,
So people think they don't have time to plan. And that's really, and I'm not talking a lot of time. I'm talking about 5 minutes and a post-it. And what are my top 3 things I need to get done today? Or, I mean, there's lots of different variations on that. There's lots of different ways to customize that since one size does not fit all. But taking a few moments at the end of the day for the next day or at the beginning of the day to plan what you're going to do. And then I'm also a big, big fan. David Allen wrote it and about it in his book, Getting Things Done. He calls it the weekly review. And that is to spend a little bit of time. At the beginning, it's a lot more time, but when you get through your backlog, it might only be a half hour, might be 20 minutes to plan the next week, to look ahead, to anticipate. Oh my God, I'm double booked on Thursday. I could change that today and save myself a lot of embarrassment. Or, oh, I have that big meeting on Wednesday. I have to be sure I allocate 4 hours to prep for that meeting and anticipate it. So that's part of your plan for the next week.
Yeah.
So I have this one client, and her name was Maggie, and she was a such a creative person. And it's hard for certain creative people to slow down enough to plan. And she said something to me, and I said, "Oh my God, may I quote you?" And she said, "Yes." She said, "I used to think I didn't have time to plan, but now I understand that that is the greatest expression of self-care."
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Um, and I do when I work with folks, we talk about like future you, right? And what is future you going to think on Thursday then when they find out they're double booked things? And so that notion that we're not only just talking about future you, we want to care for future you, right? We want future you when they show up to feel like, oh, past me did right by me.
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah, I
beautiful?
love that. I
And
love,
that's that sense of peace.
yeah,
You know, that is that better life part. That this is not so you can do all that work. It's so you can care for future you. It's beautiful.
yeah. And it goes back to your first pillar, which was it was about the quality of life for sure.
Absolutely. 100%.
I want, can we talk a little bit, another aspect of your book that is so, it's like literally the title of How You're Wired, right?
Sure.
Talk a little bit about the productivity styles that you
Sure. Absolutely. So, I have 4 styles, and these are, I'm just trying to think if I should take the time to explain to all of you. I do want to take the time to explain how I evolved to this. I took the most phenomenal leadership class in college called, I mean, it was just basic leadership, but we talked about situational leadership. And as I was a professional organizer, so the idea of this was Fred Fiedler, and he wrote this great book about leadership effectiveness, and that you don't change who you are, you change the situation and meet you where you're at.
okay.
And as I was organizing people, I started to see different personality types. And I'm a big Myers-Briggs fan. Okay. And I was taking Fred Fiedler and I was taking Myers-Briggs and then David Kiersey, who did this to that with Myers-Briggs. And because I um, love human behavior, I mean, I am a human behavior junkie. Okay. That's what drives me. And I just always study it. I always read about it. So
Mhm.
I was able to take the situational leadership and then the human behavior, uh, personality stuff and apply it. And out of that came these productivity styles.
Good. Okay.
So you could be a catalyst who is a change driver. You're fast moving, you're always testing limits. You don't really stop and pause. It's ready, fire, right? And they're the rainmakers. So I then take all of these productivity styles and I give you a structure preference. And chapter 2 of the book walks you through this. And actually, if I may say, on my website, there's a productivity style quiz you could take and get all of this. So if you
Oh,
just
great. Yes.
go to ellenfaye.com, lower right-hand corner, you take your quiz, you'll find your style. So if I have somebody who's a catalyst, and I do give them my clients a Myers-Briggs as part of our startup, because it's a starting point for me that helps me figure out how much structure does this person need to be their best self and do their best work. That's how you're wired. And the book just applies that throughout. Okay, so if you're talking about calendaring, We say if you need low structure, here's an option. If you need moderate structure, here's an option. If you need high structure, here's an option. So catalysts, they do well with low or moderate structure. If they get too much structure, you feel like they're wearing a straitjacket, they're going to rebel and they're going to drop the system. So I just need to give them just a little bit to get them unstuck so that they can get their work done. Because what they tend to do is just talk, 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 because it's easier because they don't know what they're supposed to do. So
Yes.
we help them figure out what to do,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the next style is the coordinator, and they're dependable. They're very into logistics, they're practical, realistic, responsible. They're that person you could depend on to get stuff done. They thrive in high structure. So if I don't give them, if we create systems for them that are too loosey-goosey, they're going to feel out of control, like they're stuck in quicksand. We need to give them high structure. Then the next ones are diplomats. And these are our executive directors of nonprofits and our salespeople. They're very purpose focused. They're very relationship driven. They're very empathetic. They do well with moderate to moderate high structure. Some some need a little bit more than others, more structure, but like we're still in that moderate zone. Too much structure again restricts them and they'll just drop the system. And then the last style is innovator, and they're focused, curious, systematic, big problem solvers, work as play. They thrive in high structure or moderate high structure.
Mm.
So we those just give us like four little buckets. Are you a catalyst? Are you a coordinator? Are you a diplomat? Are you an innovator? And then we have these like how do you process information? So I was saying this about the catalyst, ready, fire. We need to build in the pause. The coordinator, ready, aim, fire. Very, very deliberate.
Yeah.
Diplomats, ready, aim, aim. Is everybody on board? Everybody good with this? Aim. Okay, we're going to do it this way. Anybody object? Tell me now. Fire. And then the innovators, analysis paralysis, that's me. So I know this one really well. Ready, aim, aim. Did I think of everything? Aim, aim. Did I cross my T's and dot my I's? Aim. Okay, I'm going to fire. Did I think of everything? Let me go back and check. Okay,
Yeah.
fire. So we all have different personalities and we have to create our systems to match them.
And it's so funny is I was thinking about different bosses I've had over the years as you describe each style, right? And also, I kind of have a sense of where I am. And so, but thinking about this in the workplace and this, not only who am I, but who are the people around me and what do I learn about them and how I can interact with them saying, oh my gosh, my boss is a diplomat, so I know what I need to do to better serve their needs for structure, their needs for processing
Right.
information, that sort of thing. It's really kind of it feeds into a successful ecosystem and reminds us that productivity does not happen in a vacuum.
Right, right. I mean, like, this is such my favorite. I love this kind of work.
Yeah,
So, a lot of times people say, I can't figure out how to motivate this employee or how to get this employee to do more or step into their potential or whatever they're saying. And then we have to sit back and say, well, you know what? You like moderate structure, but that person, let's talk about them. Well, it sounds like they need more structure than you do. And then it's like epiphany comes. It's
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, um, I need to give them much more guidance than I would want from myself. Or I need to give them less guidance so they can still do their creative work than I want for myself. So when you understand that about people, you're much more effective as a leader because you can meet people where they're at.
A- And the epiphanies, right? First comes awareness, and then not always. comes commitment, right? So I would work with people at times, and this is my 20 years of HR speaking, right? Where we would have a conversation about someone, well, it sounds like they really need this. And, and now I'm working with leaders as well. I shouldn't have to do that for them. Or, well, they should figure out how to do their own, right? So sometimes it's not just understanding, but as a leader, having the commitment to try things differently and meet them where they're at.
I
And
have this one client. He's
yeah,
just such a great, great leader. And he hired me to do productivity work. And he's like, after we were done with that, he bought another package because we had a session on each of his employees so we could talk about how he could lead each individual as effectively as possible.
yeah, that's commitment for sure, right?
Oh, and
That's amazing.
just a brilliant leader,
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
brilliant leader to understand that. Yeah. It's so fun.
I want to shift a little bit and kind of get in our focus of our audience here, right? Midlife women.
Absolutely.
And whether that's they're in a professional setting or this is just about productivity in their life and however they're thinking about it. First, let's talk about that, right? So what do you see for women of this kind of Gen X, older millennials? Like what is going on that you see in a pattern around productivity issues for these folks?
I would assess the greatest challenge at this point for this group of women being not clear of what their priorities are. So there's that saying, we know it, but if everything's important, nothing's important.
Yes.
And if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So if you have 20 things that are identified as most important, you don't know what to do. So I like to back in and I establish what are your goals? And I don't take this productivity work just about work. I mean, if somebody wants to do just work, fine. But most everybody, we look at this very holistically in terms of life. What do you want from your work? What do you want? Or you're volunteering. I have a lot of people who are just volunteering and they're equally, stressed and overcommitted and then what do you want from your professional or personal growth? And what do you want from your relationships? And how do you define self-care? And we look at all of those. And then we limit what your priorities are. Because if you have too many, if everything's important, nothing's important. So really targeting, this is what I'm saying yes to for now. And this is what I'm saying no to. Maybe not forever, but for now.
Yeah.
So we might say for the next 6 months or this next year, it depends.
I, when I do this kind of work with my clients around prioritization, and I do one of my tools that I really do that I focus on is the to-do list makeover, right? And then it's got multiple levels about what I do with that, but really a lot of it becomes around driving that prioritization, which is uh, you're not even thinking about why you're not getting some of this stuff done. So let's talk about that. What's behind some of this? And the fact that you are so overwhelmed that everything is so important stagnates you, kind of blows people's minds. Like they
Right.
absolutely still feel very busy. They still feel like they've got a lot of important things to do, and yet they still also know that they would classify themselves as wasting time. Right? I'm not saying that of them, but that's why they hired me, right? They feel that internal conflict between I know I have a lot to do, I know there's a lot I can do, I know there's a lot I am doing, but I still feel like I'm wasting time. So help me resolve that. And the priority work is so critical to that.
Right. Because if you're exhausted and you're not taking care of yourself, where are you going to get the willpower
Yeah,
to initiate a harder task?
yeah, yeah.
So people say, oh, I don't have time to go to the gym, or I need to only sleep 4 hours. Well, if you're exhausted and your body's not strong, how can you do the brilliant work that you're capable of doing? So that has to be part of the formula.
One of my favorite kind of concepts to talk with people is, the Eisenhower matrix or the Covey matrix, importance versus urgency, and walking people through that as a tool, a very common tool for helping to understand prioritization. When you think about your favorite tools to help people evaluate their priorities, do you have any that come to mind for you?
So the second part of my book is called the Productivity Flow Framework.
Yeah.
And it's a five-step process that we go through. And most of my clients do all of it by hook or by crook because it all comes together to provide that solid foundation. But we start by doing a little baby strategic plan for ourselves. Now, the low structure one is really, really simple. The moderate structure one is where I start people. And if you're high structure, we could really dig into details. But that is how customized coaching works, right? But so we have to start by understanding what you think is important. And when I speak, I can do a 10-minute goal setting exercise because I think we all know deep inside. It's like the 80-20 rule. You could spend 100 hours on it and get here, but you could spend 100 minutes or 20 minutes and get most of it because you know inside what's important.
Yeah.
You don't have to overthink this, right? Because this is you. So we start with that. I do something called a time map. That's a budget for your time. We all think about budgets for our money, but you could at least get more money. We can't get more time. I don't care who you are,
Nope.
how much money you have, you can't buy more time. So, how do you want to use that time you have? From that, we extract what I call essential structures. These are the winning conditions you need to say yes to do your best work, and then the guardrails you need to say no to keep you from falling off the road.
Hmm.
Tie that all back. My task list is a hybrid of everybody else's, but I do it by priority. What is critical? If I don't do it today, I can't go home and go to work, go to bed. What is hot? What has to happen this week? Or there's a consequence. It costs me money. I miss an opportunity. I'm embarrassed. I let someone down that's important to me. I let myself down. Everything else can be done sooner or later. But this week, I'm focusing on those criticals and those hots. And then when I do my weekly planning, I'm going to reassess what needs to move up.
Yeah.
But that's how I teach my clients to organize their tasks and to help them see. We also will use those goals as a filter list to say, should I even be doing it? Does it help me achieve my goals?
Yeah.
And then we tie it up with some daily and weekly planning checklists that are customized so they can build a habit and integrate the change and then put it on all on autopilot.
And I talk a fair amount in all my work around habits, right, as well. I think that
Mhm.
that's the part that uh, makes systems successful is, do you have the habit of executing on the system? And so I love hearing that this is about building towards that habit that at a certain point it
Right.
becomes second nature. The last thing I want to talk about.
Wait, can I just say
Oh,
one
oh,
thing?
yes, yes.
I love this when I talk to my colleagues, my smart, amazing colleagues, that we all create our own ways to help people
Yeah.
that kind of fit. And we're getting to the same thing, but we're all doing it our own way. Now, I believe it's because we're wired to create systems and to spot trends and patterns, but a lot of people aren't. So they need our support
Mhm.
or the support of a coach or an organizer or someone because they have strengths that you and I don't have.
Yeah.
But I love hearing your, like we are going for exactly the same thing. Our approach might be different, but I bet you the more we dig in, the more they overlap. And I just am enjoying that so much.
Good. Me too, as well. And I I think the idea, I run into this in my career coaching and resume writing business where people will say, "Oh my God." The common thing I hear most often is, "Can you just come to the interview with me? Can I just put you in my ear? Can I?" Right? Why is this so easy for you? And I said, "Listen, let me be good at what I'm good at. And that helps you be good at what you're good at because I can't do that either. And sometimes we tend to forget that the things that we're great at feel easy to us, but many other people struggle with us and we find that unrelatable. And I think this is a
I
great
mean, if
example.
I had a dollar for every sales marketing kind of person I have worked with who is in trouble because I can't get my numbers into Salesforce,
Ugh, yeah, right.
well, if they could put numbers into Salesforce, they couldn't sell the way they sell. So a lot of them hire virtual assistants to put their
Yeah.
numbers in for them so they could go out and do what they're good at.
I let that's another part of my HR life when I would have managers say, okay, here's the job. I need somebody who can do this and this and this. I said, that's not a human. There is no
Right,
human who's good at all
exactly.
those three things. Those are three very different things. I understand that that's all important work to get done for your team, but if you're hiring for that profile, you will be disappointed because
You
you're not
will be
getting them.
disappointed.
Yeah.
Right, right. I love this quote. I love this quote so much. I put it on the cover page of the book. Hold on, hold on. I gotta find it. It's right at the beginning. It's right at the beginning. Okay, here it is. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid.
Yep. And what by the way, what a perfect segue into the last thing I want to talk about actually is the negative self-talk that everybody can have, but certainly, again, my goal here is helping midlife women get unstuck. And boy, is negative self-talk part of that world. And I do feel like it's so wedded to the productivity problem of I can't get enough done. There's no time in the day. I'm so bad at all of this. Why am I so bad at all of this? I shouldn't have to be so bad at all of this. There is a certain amount of shame that comes along sometimes with
Absolutely.
people who reach out to hire someone to help them with something that they think they should be able to handle. Can we talk about that? What do you see and how do you help with this?
Yes, it is absolutely this self-deprecation and this beating yourself up is so another like epidemic, right? And it's probably tied to the same thing that makes us want to be perfect. So I talk to my clients about self-compassion. And I urge all of you out listening, if this resonates with you, there's a woman, the Self-Compassion Institute, Kristen Neff, Kristen Neff, and Chris Gomer have a number of books on it, but watch Kristen Neff's like 15-minute TED talk on self-compassion. And she goes through the pillars of self-compassion. Uh, be kind to yourself like you would to your best friend. Like if that was your best friend, what would you say to them if they were going through a hard time? We're sitting there beating ourselves up, but you would not beat your best friend up. To know that to struggle is part of the human condition, every human does. And then to mindfully think through what, let me breathe through this or let me, think about this and how could I be kinder to myself? But what's really interesting about Kristen Neff's work or that TED Talk, she says one thing in there that captures it completely. When you beat yourself up, you are both the attacker and the attacked. So a little brain science. Okay, this is your brain, right? Okay. Here's the brainstem that's old. We can't control that. Here's our amygdala, the emotional brain. That's if this is a billion years, trillion years old, this is a billion years old. And then our thinking brain, so that's like a little brain like that. Their thinking brain is only like 1,000 years old or, 100,000 years old because the emotional brain is so much older evolutionary wise. If we attack ourselves, we move into fight, flight, and freeze. And then, so if we're too hard on ourselves, we push ourselves out of that thinking brain. The amygdala hijacks our thinking brain and pushes us into fight, flight, and freeze. And then we can't do any work. So when we are too hard on ourselves, physiologically, we are taking ourselves out of our thinking brains.
Wow.
So, Kristen Neff,
Yeah.
we are both the attacker and the attacked.
I
And I
love
talk to my clients. It's education.
I love this. I same thing around kind of how I talk a little differently but overlapping. In my book, uh, and then it's kind of the opening of my book, and it's the last slide that I always have this last slide when I'm speaking around, if I'm speaking around organizing, is be kinder to yourself than you are to your stuff,
Oh, yeah.
right?
I know. I know. Oh, my goodness. It's brilliant.
We do.
That's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. We do so much agonizing around stuff and absolutely, absolutely at the cost of ourselves.
Mhm.
And when I see people in that cycle, I try and kind of gently point it out, saying, here's what I'm seeing. You're spending a lot of your energy and your self-worth around what happens to that thing. And that's okay if you know that and are choosing that. But I think maybe you don't realize it from my point of view. And it is that kind of invitation to self-compassion that I think is part of what we can do as a coach because we have such a different lens, not only of their situation, but of so many people's situation that we're able to see, I have a theory about what's going on here. Can I pose this to you? And let's talk about how you would internalize that sense of whether or not you're attacking and being attacked by yourself at the same time.
Mhm.
I love it.
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly. So treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. If you're going through a hard time,
Yeah.
ask yourself, if this was my best friend or my partner or my child, what
Yeah.
would I say to them? Then say that to yourself. Give yourself a hug. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah. I love it. And my best friend is the best. So I'd do anything for her. So that's a great perspective for me to always keep her in
Great.
mind over me. This has been so great. I want to transition to what I talk with all of my guests with the Quicksand 3. So we're going to go over 3 questions.
I'm so excited.
And so these are all about kind of the foundation of what the podcast is all about helping women, midlife women get unstuck in all aspects of their life. So my
Great.
first question is, and it is a productivity question at its core, is there a tip or technique or trick that you use personally to help yourself get motivated when you need to do something you've been avoiding?
Yes, there is. So I alternate something I don't like to do with something I love to do. Okay. So if I have 6 things on my today list, I might put them in order. I might start with something that I enjoy, get those, brain chemicals moving. And while I'm up, like, from the dopamine hit from doing something I like, I can launch over to doing something that's more of a struggle.
Ugh, so smart.
I hate making phone calls.
Mm,
Hate it. I mean, I'm not talking to people I like. I'm talking like trying to get the, mini blind people out to fix the blind or whatever it is. I mean, it's just arduous and you waste so much time and it drives me. So I'm going to do a fun task and then do something hard. Or I'm going to do a fun task and then I'm going to take out my phone and play a game on my phone and get some of those good brain juices pumping and then move into something harder again. So alternate enjoyable, fun, easy with difficult, hard, challenging.
I love that. And you do it in a way that feels planned, right? As opposed to like, I'm bored. Am I going to choose the easy or
Right.
hard? Am I going to choose the fun or the droll?
And you have to know that you'll be disciplined enough that when you finish the
Yes.
game, the
Yep.
phone goes away and you go back
Right,
to it.
right. Not just one more, just one more, just one
Yeah.
more.
Right, you can't do that. Or one more, set a timer. I'm going to watch Instagram or TikToks for 5 minutes. I'm going to watch TikToks for 10 minutes. Whatever.
Yeah.
I need 10 minutes, right? And then when the timer's off, you go back.
Back to reality. Good. Okay, next question. If time in history or skills or money or natural ability was not an issue, is there a career or job you think you might have liked to try?
Well, um, I had always said pastry chef.
Ooh,
And then I have recently been saying, oh my, I should have been an architect because I really am into that.
that's
And
cool.
I just watched this amazing show on HBO Max called The Last Rite about Frank Lloyd Wright had blueprints on his drawing table when he died. And the people who owned the land found the drawings and they built the last right in
Oh,
2023. So amazing. And
cool.
that's got me pumped. But after our conversation today, I should have been a human behaviorist and a psychologist. But that's okay. I'm doing what I love. So it's okay. But those, I mean, I never want to stop learning. Those are just other things I could learn.
Absolutely. Good. And finally, last question is, what is a way that you reset or recharge when life is chaotic?
Oh, um, well, those are two different questions. I reset by doing weekly planning. If I feel out of control,
Mm.
or if I've just come back from vacation or something, if I sit down and I work through my weekly planning process, I am back on track and I'm caught up and I feel under control and I feel great. Um, how I refuel, refresh, I just go out into nature and I sit in quiet and I look at beautiful, wherever I am, whatever, I sit in quiet in nature. That is my biggest thing that I can do for me to make me feel better.
Good. I love that. Good. Thank you. Ellen Faye, thank you so much for being a guest here on Surfing the Quicksand. I love how much we share in common and your observation on we do things differently, but in support and in the same destination is so sharp and so what I appreciate around the Fra Leagues and how we get to do this together. And you and I are people who have referred people to each other and say, "Oh, you're not the right person for me. I'm not the right person for you." And I think that's another great
I'm
thing.
so grateful for all the things that you do that I don't do, that I can help my clients by sending them to you. So thank you very much for being
Yeah.
you.
No, I love it.
And you're so much.
I am going to share in the show notes a lot of I'm going to grab that TED Talk and some of the books that you recommended. So I'm going to share that kind of information with folks too. Just let's finish by telling people if they want to learn more about your book or they want to learn more about your coaching, how should they get in touch with you?
www.ellenfay.com. You can take the productivity style quiz. You can read about my book. You could read about my coaching. You can see my email to email me and ask me any question you want. It's all there for you.
Thank you. And if you're listening and you want to know Faye, an E at the end is Ellen Faye. But if you're seeing this in YouTube or in writing, you will see it all there. And I'll have links to all of those in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Ellen.
You're brilliant, Kathy Vines. Thank you and
Thank you.
best of luck surfing.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
I love I love the electricity that comes when two people who are on the same page about things they really care about comes out. And I think you probably heard that in today's episode. Ellen Faye just really has done a lot in this field of productivity. And I love hearing her story around how her book, The Productivity of How You're Wired, how that book came about with a little bit of a focus on helping other people like me and like colleagues that I have who want to do this kind of work with other people, or the kind of leader who wants to learn about themselves and learn about how to be better with other people and what their styles are and what their needs are. Again, kind of combination of intention and awareness and education, but also that commitment to doing the right things at the right time with the right people and feeling great about yourself, even if that doesn't always happen that way. Some great lessons in today's episode, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Something that was an aha moment for you, or something that you think you're going to try and check out. I'd love to hear it. add a comment in the platform that you're listening or watching this on, or head over to my website, quicksandpod.com. Share in the contact page some comments. And if there's something more that you want to hear about on this podcast, I'd love to hear about it there. Thanks so much.